Hi, I'm Angie with Angie's Quilting Studio. Today I'm going to clean up my sewing machine after a project, and I thought we'd just do a little chit chat today. So I just finished up a project, and I'm going to go ahead and clean up my sewing machine. And while I'm doing that, I thought I'd just chat a little bit about how I got started with quilting and just the story behind it. And if it's interesting to you, then maybe I'll do some more of these kind of things in the future. Just let me know down in the comments. But I thought it was just something different for this week. So we'll go ahead and get started with cleaning my sewing machine. I have a guide, and I will put it in the description below, or it's also, I believe it's already in the description below, about how I clean my sewing machine and how often I do it, things like that. So go ahead and grab that guide. It will actually put you on my newsletter on for my website, and on the newsletter every week I try to give some tips that I learned along the way. And I'm hoping to one day sell some fabric and maybe one day sell some patterns on there, and you'll be the first to know if you sign up for my email. So, yeah, I'd love to have you there. Right now, what I'm doing is I put in a free pattern from some patterns that I find off the internet that I think are really good, especially beginner friendly. So I usually put one of those in there every week on my newsletters. Story time on how I got started quilting. About two or probably 3 years ago now, for Christmas, my husband and son got me actually that sewing machine right there. That is a Brother SE400, and they picked that up from Walmart. And I never really did any sewing before then at all. Um, Never was really that interested in it, but I decided that I wanted to learn to sew. So that's what they got me for Christmas. And it has an embroiderer with it. Little 4x4 embroidery is what I can do with that. But I decided one day that I wanted to see if I can make a quilt. When I first got it, what I did was did just a couple of bags, and I did I think some dresses, something like that, just something simple with it, some pillowcases. And I decided one day that I wanted to try to make a quilt. My Both my grandmothers, they made quilts. One of them made quilts from scraps, like scrap fabric that she had. In fact, she made everything with the scrap fabric. I've never seen her in, maybe once I've seen her in dresses or something that she bought from the store, but mostly she made everything with the scrap fabric. And she always hand sewn the quilts together. And then my other grandma, it's actually my great grandma. She made a lot of quilts. When I was a kid, I wasn't really that interested in them. It's something that I didn't think that I could do, so never really thought about it. In hindsight, I really wish I would have asked them to teach me how to do that. Um, because I'm not a hand sewer. I have hand sewn before, but I'm not really a hand sewer. So I really wish I would have talked to them more about quilting and had them teach me how to do it. So, but anyway, when I got that, I decided that I wanted to learn to quilt. So I watched a lot of videos, read a lot of blog posts, and I just went ahead and made my first quilt, which I'll put that in a picture above. Um, what I did on that quilt was I decided I wanted to embroider. So I just made a bunch of squares and put some embroidery on them, and just quilted all that together. I did that I didn't have a pattern or anything. I just went ahead and just sewed some easy squares. I think I gave that to my niece for her graduation. The next one I decided I wanted to do, my husband wanted a quilt, so I wanted to make a really big quilt for him. That's what he wanted. He's pretty tall, but ended up being not so big. So I do owe him another quilt. So, but I'll put a picture of that one too. I didn't realize at the time that the quilt will shrink once you wash it. So it shrank, and it's not tiny or anything, but it's not as big as when I wanted it to be for him. And then I also made a couple quilts for my sister-in-law and another nephew. And then I just started from there. I made for my son, my grandkids, made them some little quilts. Um, I made a tutorial video of not really a quilt, but a self-binding blanket. So I made my uh, grandkids a self-binding blanket. I'll put that video up there if you want to see that. It's something that I probably need to redo, but I like to look at it every once in a while to show where I started. Um, it was I would do completely different now. If I knew then what I know now, then I would have done it completely different. Um, but that's okay. I'm gonna leave that up, like I said, to show where I started. But I have made several quilts since then. I made one for myself. I decided to make a quilt for myself using one of Lori Holt's patterns. And she doesn't really do patterns. She does like templates. So I made a quilt for myself, and I'll put a picture of that up here as well. And it had a lot of things that I've never done before. Applique, hand embroidery, piecing, of course. It had several. Her quilts, they have a little bit of everything to them. So it was a difficult one. I learned that when I learn things, I usually I usually start with the most complicated things first. I don't know why, but that's usually the way it goes with me. So I made that quilt and I absolutely loved it. But ever since then, I decided that I'm just going to keep making quilts. And I decided that I want to take what I've learned and share it with everybody else on my website. One of these days, I would really like to have an online quilt shop. Because my favorite part, I think, on the quilting, well, I think everything's my favorite part, but one of my favorite parts is actually going to find some really pretty fabric and try to coordinate the fabric all together. I've made, I can't even count on my hands how many I've made. I am making a lot of things for Christmas, so I can't really post those yet until after Christmas, but I will once I gift them and show you what all I've made then. But what I found whenever on quilting is that the more that you do it, the better that you get. So I've noticed my 1/4 inch seams have gotten a lot better. I'm able to line things up better. It's a practice. I do have a long arm that my husband bought for me this year, and so I would like to really practice and get started with long arm. What I've found out with that is the more you do there, the better that you will be. I have done a little bit with long arm. I'm going to do a lot more with the Christmas gifts. So, like I said, I can't show you yet. But if you practice on that just a little bit, I mean, even if you just thread it every day, or just get some practice, just some old fabric or something that you're never really going to give away or use, then you could just spend all day, or at least what I've decided to spend at least 30 minutes every day just to practice on that, to see if I get, and I feel like I have gotten better at it. I still have a long way to go. Before I bought the long arm, I just did my quilting on this sewing machine. I have a Baby Lock Brilliant, so that's all I've did my quilting on then. Um, I was fine with it, so you don't have to get a long arm to quilt. You can use your sewing machine, and that would be fine. In fact, I think I'll show you this if it's not. Sorry, it's squeaking. But this is the throat space on it, and I have actually quilted a queen size quilt on this. So if you roll it up, yeah, it's doable, definitely. So that's where I am at this point in my quilting journey. I'm hoping that, like I said, that I can get make a lot more videos as I go, like a lot more beginner friendly videos. Um, because I remember when I first started, I was watching the videos like crazy. And there's some things that I couldn't find, that I decided I would just try it. And I mean, the worst that could happen is I just use a seam ripper and start all over again. So I've done that before too. That would be my biggest tip, is just to practice. I think I'm done with my cleaning. I usually clean, like I said, go grab that guide, but I usually clean every time, right after I do a quilt, whenever before I get started on another project. So it's not too bad, but it depends on what kind of project you have. I had a something where I sewed some minky, and I mean, like I said, I clean every time after I finish a project, and that minky, it it looked like I haven't cleaned in a month, because the lint just builds up in there like crazy. So anyway, that's all that I have for you today, and hopefully I can get back to some tutorials soon. Next week, what I'm going to try to do is, I am going this weekend to a quilt hop. So I thought I would just take you guys along with me there, and I'll show you this is my first one that I've been to. I think there's 4 or 5 shops that I need to visit for this quilt hop, and you get a little passport and some stickers, something like that, and maybe win some prizes. So I'll take you along with me there, and I will, yeah, I'll show you how that all goes. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So until next week, thank you. Thanks for watching.